welcome back. So this is the Macintosh SE that we looked at a couple weeks ago on the channel, and this one was given to me by a former boss and a woman I worked for a couple of years. And it's a, I believe we determined it to be about a 1990 vintage, 89 or 90 Mac SE. Now this is the classic SE. This is the FDHD. It's got the high density floppy drive. Quite a nice machine, actually. It does kind of sort of work. When I got it, the hard drive blew up almost immediately upon power up. And there she is. I saved the drive. I still have it. It's right there. And I ended up stuffing I had an old I'm going to put in a quantum LPS, or no, just a regular quantum fireball, I think. And I mean, that solved the problem. It works. It's running fine. And before I get comments on using SCSI to whatever adapters and modern day bullshit, I want to emphasize that I prefer, it is my preference, to have a mechanical hard drive in these machines. I do know there are alternatives, and that I will heed those alternatives. At some point, you know, I will probably have to switch to a solid state solution. But for now, I prefer, and I've been collecting vintage computers for over 24 years. It is my preference to use a mechanical drive. Some collectors feel that way and some don't. Anyway, like I said, we got her working with an old, it's a 40 megabyte quantum that I had kicking around. And I was on one of the Facebook groups, just kind of perusing, and I noticed a seller very, very local to me, like within spitting distance, like literally in the same town. And this person had a whole bunch of SCSI drives that they were selling. Prices seemed pretty reasonable. And you know what? I'm like, well, out of curiosity, do you happen to have a MiniScribe 20 megabyte SCSI kicking around? And the woman said, why, yes, I do. And I said, really? Really? You have one, huh? Maybe I'm gonna have to buy that from you. So I decided to acquire a new drive. Oh yeah, I put a new clock battery in this thing. That's it right there, I believe. Hold on a second. Is that the new one? I don't even know. Hold on. Yeah, it's got to be the new one. Anyway, this one has it actually has memory problems too. So I have to reseat all of these modules because for whatever stupid reason, it just doesn't seem to want to post. And usually, if I reseat these modules, it kind of works. And we're gonna just give that the old college try here. Gotta pull these modules, and we're gonna kind of work them back and forth, make them feel loved. Snap them back in. Okay, there we go. That ought to fix her. Now, like I said, I fixed this machine. It's got a running 40 megabyte quantum drive in there. Hells bells, everything's good. But there's something really special. Now, this is why sometimes I prefer to use original drives. And this is a good reason why. The original drive that shipped with the Mac SE, at least the 20 megabyte variants, was a MiniScribe. A MiniScribe with a stepper motor. Ah, yes. Stepper motor. And there's something so unique about the sound of a stepper motor drive that I just couldn't pass up the opportunity to bring it back. The stepper motor drives work a little bit differently than, well, every hard drive out that you might have ever encountered. If you've never encountered a stepper motor drive, you don't know what you're missing. Now, the stepper motor drives are actually less reliable. They're more sensitive to temperature fluctuations because of the nature of how the actuator works. So let me let's take a look at one right here. So this is the original drive. This came out of this machine. This was originally installed. I think it had a production date of like 1989. So that's when this was made. On the side of the drive here, we have a stepper motor. This stepper motor drives the head stack assembly back and forth, and it actually moves in steps. Hence the term stepper motor. It has fixed positions, click, 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 and they're very small, very incremental positions, but they're very fixed positions. And the problem with these stepper motor drives is, let's say you're working on let's say your office is normally around, I don't know, 68 degrees, okay? Now, 68 degrees year-round, everything's fine, everything's beautiful. The furnace breaks down on a Friday night or a Saturday morning. You come into the office, and it's like 55 degrees in the office. Holy shit. You turn your computer on, and your computer comes up with missing operating system, or OS not found, or whatever the warning is. Or in the case of a Mac, you get a sad Mac, flashing disk icon. Don't panic. No, don't panic. All you've got to do is wait. Let the machine run. Let it warm up. Eventually, it will reach about 68 degrees, all on its very own. And you'll restart the machine and she'll boot up. And the reason that happens is the platters, which are made of metal and coated with rust, literally iron oxide, eventually they will expand. So because metal expands and contracts based on the temperature, that can also happen with your hard drive. Now, voice coil drives have an infinite number of positions. All it has to do is modulate the voltage going to the voice coil, and it will find track 0 no matter what. It will find track 0 eventually. Now this is another one. This is made in 26th of June of 89, and the original one was made on, oh my god, I don't believe it, 26th of June 1989. These were made on the same day. What are the odds? Now, better make sure I mark these so I don't mix them up. There we go. I'll mark that one with an X. Well, that was interesting. 20 megabyte Apple OEM part. 26th of June. I bet they have the same serial number. What are the odds? Where are the serial numbers on these? I got the model number. There it is. Wouldn't it be funny if they were made side by side? Okay. A89157. All right, 178. Okay, so they're different sequence, but made on the same day. They're twinsies. So another thing I want to point out is obviously the mounting of the MiniScribe is a little bit different. The holes are not drilled to a standard spec. They're actually drilled a little bit differently. And yeah, so that happened. Where's our connector for the... Oh, there's right there. No shit. Made on the same day, on the same production line. MiniScribe is no longer around. You might have noticed that you're not going over to Best Buy and finding, MiniScribe solid-state disks and MiniScribe external hard drives, and there's a reason for that. MiniScribe was caught in a rather serious accounting scandal. It was quite scandalous for its time. There's a little washer that I cannot account for here. It fell in somewhere. I gotta find it. Bear with me here. What they were doing is falsifying their inventory accounts to trick shareholders and investors. And when they were asked to produce, I'm really, really oversimplifying this whole thing, but when it came time to produce evidence of inventory, they went out and they bought pallet loads of brick, like the same brick that's holding my house together. And they bought the brick from a supplier up in, I think, Illinois, and or St. Louis or something like that. Anyway, so they were falsifying. So what they did is they actually packaged these bricks into, I believe, retail cartons. And when the investors or whoever was auditing the inventory came across them, they didn't open the boxes. See, I forget how they got caught. There's a whole write-up on this, but it was quite scandalous what they did. Hold on, I gotta find some screws. I can't seem to locate the original ones. Anyway, as I was saying, yeah, they were totally falsifying their inventory, and with bricks, no less. Good old-fashioned building blocks. And yeah, they got caught. It didn't really end well for them. And like I said, you don't see really very many MiniScribe products on the market these days. Those screws won't thread in, but these will. These aren't the right ones, but that's okay. So now we have our drive mounted in the original carrier. Lovely. We'll slide it in. Don't know what's going to happen. So I bought this drive in a parking lot. I handed her cash. She handed me what looked like a brick of cocaine. Totally not sketchy. But that's how we do business around here. And so she gave me her word that the drive was tested and formatted and passes with flying colors. Now, like I said, she had like dozens of SCSI drives. Most of them 5 1/4 inch. And while I was there, now you don't just take the drive and run. You know that there might be some more equipment in that bunch. So I asked her, I said, what else do you have that you're trying to sell? And she says, well, we have other systems. We have more drives. We have Macs, PCs, IBMs. I'm like, really? So I've asked her to kindly send me a list of what she has for sale, or maybe give me some pictures so I can look it over. I said, I might be interested in buying more stuff if you have it. And she seemed quite receptive to that. And if this drive works, man, it wasn't, it's like I wasn't looking for a drive for this machine. It wasn't like I set out looking for a new drive, because I don't really need one. But because I'm a purist, because I like to run original drives in my systems, or something close to it, whatever the close approximation to the original would be, not necessarily in size, but at least in technology. I'm always on the lookout for SCSI drives. I mean, if I find a treasure trove of SCSI drives for my vintage Mac collection, I'm going to jump on it. I mean, wouldn't you? I would, right? So, because of that, it's... Oh, she did say the connector was kind of a pain in the ass. The connector is cracked for the power supply, but that's okay. Not really worried about that. But routing the power connector in this configuration is kind of a bitch. I'm not gonna lie. I might have to take the drive back out to get it in there. Let's see. I'm gonna give you the play-by-play because I can't really get the camera in view. There we go. I think I got it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna see if this machine not only posts, but yeah, I have another power. Let me show you what I mean. The power connector is weaseled up in here, and it's cracked. But that's okay. I have another power supply connector. You know why? Because I have another drive. So I could just desolder it and pop it in here. If I really cared, I could do that. All right, let's power test. Now, what are my long-term plans for this SE? I never really talked about it too much, and I'm going to tell you what those are right now. So my long-term plans for this machine are, I want to retrobrite this machine. I really do. I think it needs to be retrobrighted. I think it's worth it. I really do. I think a retrobrite would do it some good. Make it look new again. Here we go. Power up. It does a seek. Yep. Hear that? Okay. Of course, it's not going to boot because there's nothing on the drive. So we're going to have to try to install macOS. Oh wait. Okay. I was like, it started to boot. No freaking way. Hold on. Let me get an OS. I mean, so far it's looking pretty good. As far as the drive being salvageable. So that's that was unexpected. So how much did I pay for this drive? Well, you might be wondering if it was, yeah. I paid more than I should have. But I paid $50. So it's a $50 cash in hand, drive in hand kind of transaction. No shipping, no PayPal, no fees, no bullshit. And she wanted more than that. She was like, oh, I'll take, I think she wanted like $80 for it or something. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. I said, will you take $50 cash in hand? Yep. Okay. I know they sell for more than that online in working condition. So as for why this one blew up, I suspect a tag tant let go, and or tantalum capacitor must have let go in it. That's usually how these die. There was definitely some smoke, and the core of the drive is still good. I could probably swap the board to see what is on this drive, but I'm not going to bother with that. We're just going to do a clean build and hope for the best. Right, there we go. Install is the installer. Let's do this. Oh, I need to run disk-util. Where is disk-util? Fonts, CD-ROM, disk tools. Yeah, this is what we need to do. We need to run disk utility. Let me position my camera so you can see what I'm doing. You can see what I'm doing, son. Well, we know the drive looks good, but before I go any further, I do want to make sure the damn thing actually works. So we're at least going to format it and make it bootable and see how that all goes down. Now with the dehumidifier off, you might be able to hear the drive for once. That beautiful sound that you only get from a stepper motor drive. Hear it? It's so beautiful. It's just a oh shit. I think this tools disc is bad. Yeah. That's why I made a second one. what about the old Quantum? This drive is going to be kept as a spare. It's an active spare. It has software on it. It's a bootable spare. Made in 1990, I think. Copyright 89. So I'm going to do a quick search and find out when that raid happened on Micropolis, or I'm sorry, MiniScribe, and see how that correlates to the production. So, according to Wikipedia, I'm not gonna ruin it for you guys. You should really read it yourselves. The company officially went bankrupt in January of 1990, which checks out because our drives were made in the summer of '89, and so yeah. You know, it's funny. I remember the summer of '89. I'm starting to sound like Grandpa Simpson, I think. But seriously, though, let's try to initialize this drive here. I love that sound. I just, oh. So anyway, my next steps with this machine involve doing a complete disassembly. I do intend to retrobrite the whole thing. I do not have a proper Macintosh SE keyboard for it, which I am on the lookout for. If you happen to have one that you're looking to sell, let me know. But the proper Macintosh SE keyboard and a mouse. I don't think I have the correct mouse for this. I have one, but it's already set up with another machine. The Mac SE keyboard is a little bit different. This is from a mid-90s Performa, I think. I mean, it works. It's just not the correct keyboard for the system. That's all. So for you purists out there, like me, it's no bueno. So yeah, I think it'll come back with a pass or fail. I'm sure it'll pass. Okay. Testing was successful, but again, no report saying, hey, dummy, your drive is gonna die, son. Nothing like that. So we're ready to install Mac OS. We'll just go ahead and, oh, how much memory is on this? I think it's about 4 megs. Let's see. 4 megabytes of onboard RAM. Shut her down. And we will put in the install disk. I'm not going to bother filming any of this because it's too damn boring and nobody wants to see that. So I'm going to run the installer on it, and I'll let you know how it works or how it didn't work. Either way, you're going to know. Yeah. But I think we're at a point where we can just go ahead and put the covers back on so the cats don't jump on it and use up 8 of their 9 lives. I think that's probably for the best. But yeah, I've reached a zenith or an apex or a pinnacle or whatever the word I want to use for the moment is of the number of machines I currently have in my collection. It's almost daunting at this point. They keep multiplying, and yeah, I'm not really looking to acquire anything right now, but this one just kind of fell into my lap, literally. I got a call from my former boss. Hey, got a computer you want. I know you want it, so come and get it. Okay. So I did, and here it is. So all I had to do was replace the clock battery. I had to reseat the RAM, and that hard drive was the one that came in it was bad, not surprisingly. So I installed System 7.1, or I'm in the process of it, and we made sure to select only the system software for the Macintosh SE. This is an option that I believe only the retail copy of System 7.1 had. So now that we've installed the brick of a hard drive, now I recommend you all look up the story surrounding MiniScribe. I believe there's actually a video done on YouTube. If I find something, I'll throw it in the description. But there's a very interesting story behind this company. in their dying days. I think by 1989, we talked about earlier that they were completely done for. But one of the most hilarious attempts at accounting fraud that I've ever read, where they literally filled their warehouse with bricks that were packed in OEM retail boxes. And that was to falsify the inventory that they had on hand when in fact they had nothing. It's just mind-blowing. But the company ultimately failed, and the assets were acquired. If I'm not mistaken, they were acquired by Maxtor. And Apple has used drives from a multitude of manufacturers over the years. I know all of them. Let me see if I can name them off. Obviously, MiniScribe was one of their earliest suppliers. Quantum, Connor Peripherals, IBM, yes, that IBM, which I think led to when IBM's drive manufacturing was sold to Hitachi, I think. Then they went to Hitachi. I've never seen a Western Digital, and I've never seen a Seagate in a Mac, but there's the possibility, and they were using Mac stores, interestingly enough. I believe the OEM drive in this iMac is a Mac store. I could be wrong. And I probably am. Yeah, probably. But anyway, it's kind of funny, though, how Apple was able to produce a product like this with a SCSI stepper motor drive at a time when stepper motor drives were on the way out. And, by the late 80s, early 90s, they were almost completely obsolete. There was no real advantage to a stepper motor other than cost, as I understand it. They weren't as reliable as voice coils, and they had the noise, just the noise. Oh my God, the noise that they made was insane. And that's, it's obvious Steve Jobs was out of the picture by then, because he would have never let a machine out the door with this drive in it. No effing way. He was all about aesthetics, and aesthetics can be visual, and they can be what's the word, oral. Not oral like my mouth, but oral is an A-U-R-E-L-A-L. Oral, yeah, it's with an A. Anyway, back to my point. I've talked about this many times on my channel. I try to keep mechanical drives in as many systems as I can. And the reason for that is there's no practical reason for that. I'm sacrificing longevity and reliability and speed for authenticity. And this is a perfect example of that. This is one example of why I like to do this. I want you in this segment of the video, we're gonna just experience the drive in all its glory, all of its shortcomings. And I'm going to be quiet. I know you guys are loving that, right? I'm gonna shut the hell up for once. I'm gonna be quiet, and we're gonna just hear the drive speak for itself. I'm gonna run some games, and we're just gonna sit here and listen to the drive and all the horrible clattering noises it makes. For those younger folks who have not experienced a stepper motor hard drive before, they're becoming a rare sight, a rare oddity in today's day and age, because there's not a lot of them left that are still functioning. A lot of them have been, over the years, they've just died from natural causes, and no one's really fighting to save them. So I want to make this video so you can hear the drive, and maybe the phone might even pick up some of the vibration that this drive will put into the desk. Stepper motor drives are known to vibrate through the chassis in some cases. I'll tell you one quick story. I had an IBM PS2 Model 30 286, and that machine was OEM'd with an IBM brand custom interface, 20 megabyte stepper motor drive, very similar to this one, but it wasn't as thick as this. I believe it was a standard height, 3.5 inch. And that drive was, the whole case would vibrate when that thing ran. And you could hear that drive down the hall of our 2-bedroom mobile home. I had it in the back bedroom was my bedroom. And you turn this thing on and you could hear that drive. I could be in the kitchen and you could still hear it. It was so loud. It was the loudest drive I think I ever had. So for your listening and viewing pleasure, I'm going to shut up now and we're going to let the machine speak for itself. I'm going to start it up. We're going to start a couple of games. We're going to get that drive cooking. Here we go. And this is an experience that you will not get with an SD to SCSI converter. No, this is the real deal, my friends. Here we go. I think you get the idea. And that is not an effect that you can just get with a solid state conversion. I mean, granted, you do get the rest of the experience, but you don't get the sound. You don't get the slowness, which is part of the experience. If I wanted to hot rod this machine, well, it wouldn't be this one. I'd find an SE30 and I'd start with that. But an old-fashioned SE with an FD-HD option package, which I think was just the high-density floppy drive, with its original 20 megabyte stepper motor drive from a company that was morally bankrupt and fiscally bankrupt all the same. It's just something unique about that experience. Now, again, if I don't have an option, well, guess what I'm going to do? If there are no options and I can't find a drive, then I'll obviously substitute whatever I can find. And that may just be a solid state device. I don't hold people or collectors who put solid states in all of their vintage equipment in any, and other than, well, how can I put this? I don't hold it against them. I don't. Because you do what you have to do to keep your machines alive. And the whole purpose of this hobby is to keep the past alive. Keep these machines in running condition so that they can be appreciated and gawked at by future generations. That's the point. That's why we do this. But every collector has a different mindset, a different reason for doing what they do. And for me, a lot of what I do is to try to preserve originality where possible. A good example of a machine that would be a perfect candidate for a solid state conversion might be an original iMac. There really is no value in these standard off-the-shelf, clicky voice coil drive, but a machine like the SE, you gotta have that drive. You gotta have that un-Apple-like aesthetic. Speaking of iMacs, I haven't booted this machine up in almost 2 months. I'm not even sure it still works. Let's find out. By the way, this was the first iMac actually had a cooling fan, which is kind of interesting how Steve Jobs was very much anti-cooling fan throughout his career and allowed this to happen. But you can just barely hear it. The voice coil sounds, you can barely hear them over this thing. Speaking of the SE, of that 20 megabytes, I think we have just about filled it at this point. There might be 5 megabytes left. I've added so much software to it. Let's take a look. I mean, 20 megabytes, that's not much. I don't need to tell you guys. 20 megabytes, a Word document is with all that ridiculous formatting and stuff that they put in them. I mean, a Word document can easily hit 20 megabytes. Throw a little bit of clip art in there and you've got it. Yeah, this thing still runs. That's good to see. I'm glad to see that. I'm installing a game called Word Attack. I just wanted to put something in it so I can get that drive humping so you can actually hear it do its thing. Yeah, the original Bondi Blue. This is a Rev B, but it's an original. Just talk about crazy. 6 gigabytes. What am I doing here? 6 gigabyte drive. Oh, 4 gigs. It only got the 4 gig in there. 4 gig drive versus 20 megabytes. I mean, that's just nuts. In a span of less than 10 years, mind you. In a span of less than 10 years, the SE was made in '89. This was made 9 years later. in 1998. Crazy. Just crazy. Yeah. But anyway, I think you get the point, and I hope you guys have a new appreciation for what I am attempting to do here. I just want to, once again, explain why I do what I do. Because I do get a lot of comments, at least more so in the past, you know, why don't you put in a solid state? Well, because that's not right. Because that's not my thing. It might be your thing, not mine. Just wouldn't be the same. Just wouldn't be the same. Let's see if she's keeping time. Yep, 11:17 p.m. 1922. 8/19/1922. The SE does not acknowledge the year 2022. No, really, it doesn't. Surprised? Now, in this next part, I want you to listen carefully to the shutdown. You might hear the, I believe this drive has a mechanical brake that is designed to stop the platters from spinning. There's a solenoid that hits the, let's take this apart. We're going to take this board off and we're going to see what's back there. But as I understand it, there's a little brake shoe that will strike the actual motor drum. No, because it's not external. Not on this one. It may be internal. But some of these older drives actually have a brake. Now, for those of you who stayed long enough, there's another little treat I want to share with you guys. Now, these earlier drives weren't built anything like modern drives. The spindle motors on these units were external. So on all modern drives, the spindle motor is internal to the drive housing, the entire motor, all moving bits. On these drives, the spindle motor can be accessed by removing the controller board. And it's right there. In fact, if we were to peek inside this computer case, we would see that motor spinning its life away. Now, that's different. You don't see that anymore. You can see part of it, part of the I believe it's a linear induction motor. But it's just another, it's basically the same type of motor you would find in a VCR. Both for the rotating head drum and for the transport mechanism as well. I forget what those are called. There's a name for them. But you've got like 6 or 4 or 5 poles or coils all in a circle. And then there's a metal stamped drum or a plate that sits on top of that, and that's the part that rotates. And there's usually a magnet, a disc magnet in that drum. Anyway, when we shut this computer off, you're going to hear another little Easter egg. Many of these motors have a brake that applies when power is cut to the motor, and it's designed to keep the platters from spinning unnecessarily when the power is cut. Because if the platters are spinning at low speeds for any length of time, it can cause damage to the heads. These drives do not park like a modern drive does. They park in a landing zone or in a parking zone that is not, there's no data written to it. Modern drives will actually unload the heads off the platter onto a set of ramps, especially portable, like laptop drives. Now, these do not do that. Instead, the heads will park in an area of the platter that is not used for data. And but you don't want that. You don't want those platters spinning any longer than you have to, because it will cause wear and tear on the heads, like a modern drive. Which is why they apply brakes. It's a little brake shoe that clicks in. It's servo active, not servo. It's what's the word? Solenoid activated. It just clicks. It's got a little brake shoe and everything. And you're going to hear that when we shut this thing off. You're going to hear it squeak. Listen very carefully. Okay, didn't squeak that time. But if it was cold, you might actually hear it. No solid state disk can give you this much entertainment. Oh, look, it's a solid state. It just does its thing. It works every time. Yay! Anyway, that's going to conclude our video. I thank you all for your viewership, and I hope this was somewhat entertaining, somewhat informative. Maybe you heard something that you'd never heard before come out of a Mac. But there was a time, when Apple was just a computer company. They didn't make anything else. And they worked within the limitations of the technology that was available to them at the time. And since Apple never made hard drives, they bought what they could get. And at a time when hard drives were a premium option, they were very expensive. They were not terribly easy to make. They required a lot of resources. And capacities were not luxurious at all by today's standards. 20 megabytes. I mean, you think about 20 megabytes. That's nothing. The original IBM PC came with a 10 meg, and the Apple Lisa only came with a 5. If you bought the hard drive option, you got a 5 megabyte hard drive. Congratulations, what do you friggin' do? But then again, at the time, floppy disks only had, the first 3.5-inch disks only had a 400K capacity. The first 5.25-inch disks only had about 180K per side. I think they were smaller than that. The 8-inchers, I think, were even smaller. So 5 megabytes, 10 megabytes, 20 megabytes. I mean, that was something. The benefit of having the hard drive was that you didn't have to keep pumping in disks. Because prior to that, and even into the early 90s, when you could still buy a computer legitimately without a hard drive, if you ran software that required multiple diskettes, you would just keep pumping them in, it was like you run a few steps, disk pops out, put the next one in, do whatever you got to do, disk pops out, put the next one in, then you got to go back and cycle back to the first one. I mean, that's how Apple IIs were. That's why you see a lot of Apple II kit. If you find the Apple IIs that are currently for sale online, a lot of them have multiple disk drives because you would actually use them. I actually have another 5 1/4 inch for that machine as well. And you put disk 1 in the top drive, disk 2 goes in the bottom drive, and they go back and forth. Most Apple II software was written so that you could actually take advantage of multiple floppy drives. That's just how they rolled. It worked for them back then, and you know, but in today's world that would not fly. That's very inconvenient. Nobody wants that. Anyway, on that note, I will bid you all a good night, and thank you for watching.